Hello, good morning, and welcome to Democracy Day. We're coming to you live from Channels Television. I'm Chamberlain Uso.
Good morning, I am Gimba Umar.
Namaya Makine saying good morning.
Well, yes, indeed. So today we will be bringing you coverage of Democracy Day. Don't forget that there'll be quite a number of activities have been lined up to take place in Abuja. Yes, we did have May 29 as well, the handover and inauguration day, but today being Democracy Day, don't forget that the president also did sign that public holiday amendment bill into law. So that means that today is public holiday. Today is Democracy Day. So what we will have moving forward on May 29th will just be inauguration and handover. So May 29th is a work day. You have to go to work on that day. So if you've been used to it, get on used to it being a holiday. So we'll be looking at what happens today. How do we deepen democracy? Where are we at the moment? What do we need to do to get to where we are and possibly rank in the Committee of Nations? So all of that we will bring you today on Democracy Day.
Well, you know, Chamberlain, when you see, this is history in the making. I mean, it's going to be the maiden edition of June 12 as a Democracy Day that was signed by the President, Muhammadu Buhari.
Yeah.
But of instructive note is that this calls really for the unification of the country and trying to put the square pegs in the square holes, as it were. And so I think that the diversity of what we are today, when you think about religion, ethnicity, tribes, all culminates together to come into one being, which is the Nigerian state, and how do we develop ourselves, looking ahead. And Democracy Day, for a lot of people, will mean, I think, this is a wild thought, I think that Democracy Day will mean the advancement of inclusion of just about everyone, and having governance steered in the right direction, just so that we have that dividends of democracy looking ahead, and having democracy address all the concerns of federalism. Is it true federalism that we're pursuing at this time? How do we define what restructuring is? Because these are things that will continue being on the table, looking ahead and seeing how well this government is able to steer all of that in a direction that will seem to suggest to a lot of people that we're actually making progress. Democracy, for a lot of people, want to translate into improvement in the health sector, improvement in education, improvement in infrastructure, improvement in the welfare of our workers. It's one big ball. It's like a life, total life on its own, and it's moving. So I'll ask just about everyone to join that bandwagon and try to see that we put the right things in place. Will democracy bring about emancipation of our people? Will democracy put the political class in its rightful place, right from the primaries that we saw in 2015 and then in 2019? What difference did it make to anyone? I think that if we are, as a people, thinking on the same page, this is an opportunity that has been presented to us as Democracy Day to begin to do the right things at every level that we are. Ayo.
Yeah, you know, you guys said it right when you said that it's history in the making. And most certainly, many people will wonder, why change the day from May 29 to June 12? Well, you may need to get your pen and paper, because all the guests we have lined up for you today will be giving you some history lessons. You know, but what's important is, I would like to speak to the youth about this. Most of the people who will be watching us, who will be on Twitter, who will be on Facebook, who will be on pretty much the social media, you know, following us, because yesterday, during the elections of the National Assembly officials, many people were on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube, you know, watching Channels Television, following the conversation and making comments along the line. And it was interesting because, you know, people were clearly interested in what was going on. And of course, naturally, everyone had their sides. So today, you may want to ask yourself, why is the government having an inaugural, a handover day for May 29 and June 12 as Democracy Day, where we'll roll out all the banners and do all the things that we need to do to celebrate. Well, today is that day where something happened, and you would want to ask yourself, so why change it? Just sit back, relax, because today is the day where you have all of that. But do not forget, as a youth, you have a stake in this country. Democracy is one way to ensure that we get exactly what we want. But it's government of the people, by the people, for the people. But it's first of all government of the people. So the people have something to do.
You know, democracy is not a magic bullet. So you will always have challenges. As long as we're humans, there'll be challenges, there'll be imperfections, there'll be impediments, all of those things will exist. So we can only do the best that we can as a people to keep ensuring that, you know, most importantly, the people play a huge role in the scheme of things. That's why it's a democracy, and that definition perhaps may suffice. But we'll go to break and come back and take a look at what the dailies have got for you today in a moment. Stay with us. What do the dailies reflect today? You may not exactly be wrong. Yes, they highlight events that transpired yesterday. Take a look at Vanguard for a start. 9th NAS leadership. How Lawan, Baja, others emerged winners. Lawan floors Undume in Senate. Baja defeats Bago to emerge speaker. Umar beats Ekweremadu with 68 votes to emerge deputy president. Senate adjourns till tomorrow. Buhari congratulates Lawan, Baja, others. So all of that lead here on the front page, all associated with what transpired yesterday. And you could see images as well, you know, to buttress that lead story which you see on the front page today. And then at the bottom strip, June 12, a nation's date with democratic rule. Let's focus on the lessons. Doyin Abiola, Democracy Day Primer by Wole Soyinka. The truth that set democracy free, Bola Tinubu. Why Abiola's ideas must be upheld, Wurola. I'm disillusioned with 20 years of democracy, Kokori. So you got all those perspectives featuring on the front page here today. You could pick up the paper if you like to get those perspectives as highlighted here today. But just beneath that one, Buhari vows tougher anti-graft measures in second term. Okay, so this is what you also see here today. That's LG Funds court declines to restrain NFIU. So what happens now? Look at the back page, Vanguard Sport. Eagles AFCON squad worth 78 billion naira. Didi Chukwueze Iwobi, most expensive player. So that's Vanguard today.
All right, Daily Independent is next, and boy, it is a wash with the 9th National Assembly elections. Guys, that'll be Daily Independent. There you have it. Now let's take a look at the lead story. It's a new dawn. Excited Buhari, APC. That's how they caption it. It goes with a couple of riders, about 5 of them, if you would say. As Lawan, Omar Agege, and Bajabiamila was a triumph. I'll do justice to all lawmakers, Lawan. It won't be business as usual, Bajabiamila. PDP congratulates new leadership. Harps on legislative independence, rule of law. So you have all of that mix, and looks to be quite inspiring for people who are watching. But will it change anything? But that's the big picture of the swearing in of both the Senate President, Ahmed Lal, and the Speaker of the House of Representatives. I think we're going to get used to this now. The Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila. Now, just beneath that, you still have in the red strip, don't know if a lot of us can see that. The red strip, still the 9th National Assembly. Rubber stamp tags speculative. This is coming from Abakoba, Hamba, Ngige, Obade. And just more stories on that to the left of the big picture. Don't see my action as rebellion. That's ascribed to Ndume. Says that he'll work with Lowell. Nigerians deserve a good thing, Senator Abo. And I have made my point, Ekweremadu. And you also have this era of bickering between legislative, executive over. This is ascribed to Sage. APC will continue. Blame game, he says. And then just above the nameplate, this is very instructive too. Buhari, APC, INEC urge tribunal to dismiss Atiku PDP petition. That's where we leave it for Daily Independence.
The Nigerian Tribune is next, and it leads with the same National Assembly story. 9th National Assembly, forces that pulled victory for Lawan by Jabiamila. Stories on page 2 has a few riders. How PDP senators ditched Ndume, Ekweremadu. Goje, PDP governors save Lawan. New dawn replaces duplicity, perfidy, says Buhari. It's triumph over impunity, APC says. And PDP, Saraki, others congratulate National Assembly leaders. That's the lead story of the paper this morning. There's a news analysis also, this is related most certainly. News analysis says burden of National Assembly new leadership. Right above that big story are three other stories there. Buhari's government drawing Nigeria towards disaster, instability, says Obasanjo. The story is on page 30. Dismiss Atiku's petition. Buhari, APC, INEC tell tribunal. That's on page 37. And JAM approves 160 as cutoff mark for 2019 admission. We'll leave that. Of course, the back page has sports stories. We'll leave it there for the Nigerian Tribune.
Take a look at The Guardian now. How Lawan Gbajabiamila emerged National Assembly leaders, so you may as well, that is reflected in all the other papers. But at the bottom strip, on Democracy Day, eminent citizens task Buhari on better Nigeria. Shoyinka, Abakoba, Okpadokun, Odumakin, others seek electoral reforms, good governance. So we might as well pick up on that one. But look at the back page, our Guardian Sports. Sack Super Falcons coach if Nigeria fails against Korea, Esu tells NFF. Well, that's Guardian today.
New Telegraph is next, also about the National Assembly, that's the NAS leadership. This is how they captured it. There you have it. APC foils PDP's coup. Who would have thought about it in that light? But that's how the New Telegraph is captioning it this morning for the National Assembly leadership. The riders are all there. Gbajabiamila floors, Umar Bago becomes House Speaker, while Ekweremadu lost to Omar Agege, and Wase emerges Deputy Speaker. All of that mixes there for you. But that's the big picture. I think this is just to show that from now on, their business with those who have it, those who say aye, because those who say nay. But it's going to be more than that, people, even though you can see them holding the hammer. And just beneath the big picture, Tinubu on June 12, democracy must translate to better life for Nigerians. But of course, Shoyinka, only broad-based government can solve nation's problems. And you have also there in the red typics, pancreases could be grown in rodents to cure type 1 diabetes.
All right.
That's it for the New Telegraph.
So there you go. They've highlighted what transpired yesterday in Abuja, but a lot is still going to happen today in Abuja. And that's where we're headed now. We've got Kayla Megwa and Ibrahim Adra on standby to bring us some highlights today.
Oh, well,
Kayla,
gentlemen,
go ahead. What's happening?
Yeah. Good morning to you on this Democracy Day. Here in Abuja, it's bright. The sun is just breaking through the clouds right over the Aso Villa and, of course, the Aso Rock. You need to see it in its splendor, as if the rock is saying, I know how significant and important today is. Security, of course, tight. All road leading to the Eagle Square. Security men in their numbers, ensuring no needle passes through without being properly scrutinized. But then here on ground, as Kayla would want to tell you, she's been observing the various colors, various officials doing everything they can to ensure that it is a successful outfit. But then I can tell you, the guests are not here yet, and we have a program of event, so we will bring you abreast with what will be happening today. It's a 2-hour program that promises to be exciting. Kayla.
Yes, of course, it's going to be an amazing, amazing event. It's basically going to be parade, so everyone is going to have a wonderful time watching all of the displays. The military is going to take their time to really impress everybody who's going to be here. There are going to be former heads of state here. They're going to be visiting heads of state here as well. There's going to be the cultural troupe is also going to perform today. So it's going to be a very interesting event, and I'm really looking forward to the Democracy Day address to hear what Mr. President is going to say about it. Yesterday, he had mentioned what Democracy Day is supposed to signify for the Nigerian, and he was talking about how it is a celebration of the sacrifices that were made and a remembrance of the people who made those sacrifices. So we're looking forward to hearing that today. I'm bringing to you all of the colorful details of what will be happening here at the Eagle Square right here in Abuja. Brian.
Yes, Kayla, the Democracy Day address, I also saw that to be presented by the president, of course. Now, I'm saying Democracy Day address, and then I remember there used to be an inaugural address.
Yes.
So, is there a change of name? Is it the same thing? What are we going to see when a new president comes in? Will he be delivering a Democracy Day address or an inaugural address?
I think it's going to be a Democracy Day address. I'm not really sure how it's going to be. It's the first. Remember, this is the first time that Democracy Day is going to be celebrated on June the 12th. So it's something that I want to hear this speech. I want to hear what Mr. President is going to say today. Is it going to be something that we've heard before? Is it going to be something different? Is it going to be a unifying speech? Is it one of those situations where he's going to talk about things that happened in the past? Is he going to talk about the future? Is he going to remind us? I don't know what it's going to be, but I'm really, really looking forward to that Democracy Day speech. That's what they're calling it for now. So the Democracy Day speech, when it comes up, I'm going to be all ears to hear exactly what Mr. President has to say about it. But a very important day in Nigeria's history, Ibrahim, and I'm really looking forward to how Nigerians take this. There's going to be a lot of nostalgia out there, which is a big thing for me as well. So I'm looking forward to how everyone is going to feel about today's celebrations, Ibrahim.
You're not alone. I'm sure a lot of Nigerians are also waiting for that Democracy Day speech. But then quickly, if I could bring you up to date with what the program looked like. Of course, there are those long arrivals in order of protocol. The senators, Senate President, newly elected Senate President, the Speaker, House of Assembly, Acting Chief Justice of Nigeria, the Senate President, and all those, they will arrive in that order, with the President bringing the rear and to be received by the Vice President. Now, those parades that you mentioned are going to be quite colorful. It's always an interesting thing to watch. When you see that military precision, that drill, well, those things are going to be taking place here today. And then there is something they call 3 hearty cheers by the troops.
Oh dear.
I don't know when last you saw that.
I think the last time I saw 3 hearty cheers by the troops, I was a kid. Maybe like an Independence Day celebration or something when I was much younger. But the 3 hearty cheers are going to happen today. I'm looking forward to the former heads of state that are going to be here, because that's something people were asking about during the inauguration, how many former heads of state were around. I want to see who's going to be here. And then the visiting heads of state as well. The president of Rwanda is around.
Some of them were at the dinner last night.
Yes, the president of Ghana is around as well. Prime Minister from Liberia, and I think from Mauritius or something. You know, a lot of those countries. And I'm looking forward to who else is going to be here. And we'll be giving you those details as they happen right here at Eagle Square.
And how I wish it to be possible to go to one of them and tell them to speak to us on their feelings today. It's really a very big diplomatic move, if you ask me, when those people turn out the way they do and they come to play. It signifies a lot. It shows confidence in the country. It shows friendship. To me, it means a lot, because if perhaps you're not that important on the global scene, you probably won't have people coming. If you don't have that goodwill, if you don't have that friendship, perhaps you won't have as many people turning up for your event.
Absolutely.
In this case, it's good to see how many people will be coming, really, on that level.
I mean, the anti-corruption summit happened, I think it was yesterday as well, and the president of Rwanda was talking about Paul Kagame, who we're big fans of, was talking about, you know, the anti-corruption war. And he was saying how tackling corruption in Nigeria has to be from top to bottom. He said that's the approach to fight corruption. You know, so many views are out there. A lot of African leaders are very interested in what Nigeria is doing. And this Democracy Day celebration is very significant for Nigeria and for Africa as a whole. This is the longest stretch that Nigeria has had, an uninterrupted 20-year stretch in democracy. So to hear what President Buhari is going to say about that, how African leaders feel about that, that would be something to look out for, Ibrahim.
I'd very much love to see a part of the speech where he'll be reaching out to everyone and calling on everybody to come on board towards building Nigeria, and that will be very significant. When we came here on the 29th, it was very visible that some key members of the opposition that you would have thought you would see at a gathering like this, because this is supposed to be a Nigerian event, were missing here. There were no special provisions for anyone in that order. So it would be nice to see if perhaps all the other politicians in the opposing camps will turn up for this event. If they don't, well, that's perhaps probably understandable. But I thought on a great day like this, Democracy Day, a new Democracy Day, June 12th, I thought it would be nice for everyone to stand up and be counted.
Absolutely. I think a Democracy Day celebration goes beyond politics. It goes beyond party lines and issues that they may have had in the past. I think, for me personally, I think Democracy Day is big enough to unite. It's a unifying factor. So I'm really looking forward to all of the activities. They're still arriving. A few people are still getting here, but you know, the guests are not here yet. You can see behind us. But security is tight. I can tell you that. The entire city is on lockdown right now, but we'll be looking out to see those who gain access, those who have access to this particular grounds, when they get here, how they will conduct themselves, what are the things we're going to be hearing, and what are some of the things to look out for here today.
Come on, guys, let's not, I mean, we could go on and on talking, but let's return to the studio and then we'll give you more update when you come back to us next.
Yeah, but before you
have a good time.
Yeah, before you wrap up, could you just tell us, I mean, about these 2 days, May 29 and the 12th of June. I mean, what do you hear? What do your sources tell you, even if it's off the cuff? What are their thought process in terms of, are we going to maintain these 2 dates, or in the future, are we eventually, or do they think that we should eventually just make it 1 day, meaning the 12th of June?
Oh, well, if what we've been hearing, and of course that signature the president appended on that bill, you know, making this the official Democracy Day, it presupposes automatically, I guess, that May 29 has been rested. It's not going to be a public holiday anymore.
It absolutely has been rested. May 29th is not a public holiday, except, of course, in the case of an inauguration. So if in 4 years' time we have an election and an inauguration is happening, inaugurations will still happen on May the 29th. And they would announce then if May the 29th will be a public holiday or not. But for now, without any inauguration, May the 29th has been rested. It's not a public holiday anymore. The public holiday now is June the 12th, where we celebrate Democracy Day every single year. And then on May the 29th, every 4 years, we would have an inauguration, and they would announce to us whether it is a public holiday or not. Those are the facts that we're getting, at least from Mr. Lai Mohammed. At least that is where things rest as of today.
But wouldn't it be tidier if we can find a way of doing some sort of legislation that will perhaps, you know, move May 29, do that tiny adjustment, just few days, and see if we can just do everything all on the 12th of June, every inauguration. What do you think?
I think so too, but the thing about May the 29th is that, you know, it's also the first time, in the last 20 years, that was when President Olusegun Obasanjo was sworn in, and it's a very important situation for Nigerians. So I don't know what they're going to do about that, but I do get your point. Why not move everything to June the 12th, you know, but let's see what happens. But for now, May the 29th is rested. It is not a public holiday unless there's an inauguration going on that particular day.
That's right, so you got it there.
All right, well done, guys. I hope Ayo has heard that, because he'll be itching to pot him, but he'll have to hold on until we'll come back from this break in a moment. Stay with us. All right, welcome back to our Democracy Day studios, and as you can see, we have gentlemen who've got deep history, a deep sense of history as well, concerning what transpired on today. But several years on today, Democracy Day, we'll be taking a look at where we are, what we need to do, and then a bit of history as well. So, Senator Jonathan Zwingina, good to see you.
Thank you.
Again, directly in our Lagos studios this time.
Yes.
Senator Shehu Sani as well, good to see you as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, so it's what a day today, Democracy Day. But waking up today, What kind of thoughts did you wake up with on Democracy Day, Senator?
Well, a beautiful thought that this Democracy Day is recognized by a larger constituency in Nigeria and abroad. It's a Democracy Day ignored for quite some time. It had actually not been initiated until the Southwest governors and some of the local governments began to clamor for some day to recognize this. And we in the campaign had championed it immediately after the 1999 elections. But we did not get the support of the executive at that time. We even mentioned some national monuments that could be commemorated, not only for Democracy Day, but for MK Abiola and all the struggles. We did not get much support. And that went on until Yaradua came, and Goodluck came, and still there was some lethargy. We were so pleased that last year, President Buhari accepted that this historical error needed to be corrected. And with that correction, we felt a sense of relief that at least the ghost of MK Abiola can now at least, may not rest because full restitution had not been done, but at least there will be some admission that some reckoning has been done and some correction and effort to it has also been done from an unlikely quarter. And so we were quite pleased. And as a campaign manager of the campaign, I felt very relieved. I got phone calls from all our coordinators who are still alive and the various committees, because we had zonal, state, and local government committees. Then we had the formal structure of the SDP. Then we also had the National Assembly structures. Then we had the women and the youth organizations. Then we had various interest groups and various support groups, the normal paraphernalia of political outlay. And all of them called in, and we housed them in Abuja during the day the president set aside. So I think that was a good restoration, and for that we really commend him. Should have been done by President Obasanjo, really. Now, this is the symbolism of it. Now, what remains is to put in the content, or some of the content. It's a good beginning. I do not see it as an end-all affair. It's just a very good beginning, which we should commend, but then begin to put some, I think that number one, a befitting recapitulation of really what MK Abiola stood for ought to be acknowledged and also put in correct perspective. I know technically some argue that a candidate can only be seen to have won if the chief returning officer returned him. And so that's the technical area. But I think there are also arguments that an election is really the counting of votes and not what happens after. And with the counting of votes, we all have the results at the state levels, at local government. We had the results even at the national level. In fact, the chief returning officer of the federation had results in his armpit. They were just not written down on the blackboard. And they were written down to number 14, and then a court order came to stop. So I think some reflection needs to be taken there. And this was not a lone struggle for MKO alone or with King Gibe. There were lots of other leaders that took part, and some, in my view, some recognition needs to be extended there. Two, MKO did not just stand to run election, he stood for some programs, some projects. And if we really admired that period, we need to look at farewell to poverty.
Yeah, Senator, we'll come to those issues, those ideals, and see how they resonate today. But I need to also ask Senator Sani, what were your thoughts as well this morning when you got up on this day?
Well, thank you very much. Well, first of all, we can divide June 12 into two, the election and the struggle, and I belong to the struggle. And the very fact that June 12 is today being recognized nationally, I think is an appreciation of not just Abiola, but the struggle and sacrifice of Nigerians who stood to defy the military, who led a mass resistance and revolutionary campaign to disestablish military from governance and restore democracy. If we can recall that after the capitulation of the political class, there was a new force within the civil society, the civil rights movement, the labor movement, even the intelligentsia in the university. They took up the mantle of the struggle. And you can see it was their contribution, their determination, and their fight that kept the light and touch of freedom alive for that very moment up to today. And from the part which I played as a member, as executive of the Campaign for Democracy, and one that has also led the struggle in the North. Yesterday, I visited Balarabe Musa, and I was on phone with Colonel Umar. These were people who were not active in the campaigns, which was led by my elder distinguished colleagues here. But later, we took the struggle. Many of us were thrown to prison. So many people were killed. So I think the spirit of the recognition of this June 12th is about appreciating that struggle. But most importantly, is laying a foundation to ensure that the message, the principles, the ideas, the ideals of June 12 is being realized, and most importantly, like the issue of restructuring. These are issues that have been germane to ourselves and also have been topical. So we recognize June 12. It is unprecedented that after 20 years it's coming from President Muhammad Buhari. And I know very well that even after the annulment, President Muhammad Buhari, when he was an ordinary citizen, spoke and demanded that the election be revalidated. And later I found out who must have pushed him to this. And then I found out it was Colonel Umar who reached out to him and showed him what happened. And then he now fall in line and then moved on. But I think what we have achieved today is the fact that as long as the struggle is just, as long as the struggle is about the people, it's about the country, no matter how dark it is, there will be light, and light has come. And I think we should appreciate that and use this opportunity to rebuild our country and reconfigure it for the betterment of this and the future generation.
When you say light has come, I'm wondering, as others will be wondering too, because of the turmoil and the challenges we face as a people, right from 1999 and the advent of democracy in the Fourth Republic. But does it translate really to the kind of emancipation from today onwards? Does it translate into the kinds of emancipation that the people hope for in different sectors of the economy?
No, I think I have to be very clear on this. Declaring June 12 a democracy day does not mean that we are within this day or by simply a declaration, an instant, that we have arrived the promised land of democracy. We are faced with challenges that undermines our national stability and even the democratic process itself. But all I'm saying is that if June 12 will be of value to us, it's not simply about giving a wooden plaque or a gold-plated award to people who struggle, but it's by living to the spirit of it. Respect the rule of law, respect the principle of separation of powers, ensure that there's justice, and ensure that this country works better, fight corruption, and address the problem of security. I mean, when you go through the programs of SDP and also the ideas of Chief M.K. Abiola, it is about how poverty could be eradicated, how corruption could be tackled and other things here. But we are very far away from achieving those things. And declaration of a day, I think, could be said to be a beginning of an appreciation of a certain set of ideas and principles.
Senator Zwingina, incidentally, it's 20 years since we began the Fourth Republic, 20 straight years of unbroken. Do you think we have, is that a sign that we have learned from history, or we still have a lot to learn?
Yes. I am not a pessimist, and I see some optimism in what we have gained so far. I mean, of course, it's not really been a rosy story all along, but I would say that we have learned, and we are still learning. The fact that we have returned to June 12 is part of the learning.
Return?
Well, we had abandoned June 12 in terms of a national recognition. The fact that at the government level, some tokenism of recognition has been done, and I believe other contents will follow. So that is an admission. And the reason why we celebrate this is not just the recognition, but the admission that the will of the people cannot be suppressed forever. The will of the people expressed on June 12, and equally expressed by the resistance that followed. because it's a two-way process, the making of June 12 and the struggle to validate June 12. These are the two currents of June 12 that have been in play for the 26 past years.
Okay.
The making of June 12 for those of us who were in it at that time, then the struggle to validate it. Now, there are other 20 straight years without a coup. It's something to celebrate. I mean, no matter how zigzag it has been with all the disappointments and the challenges, finances, budgets, security and all of that, at least the representatives of the people are the ones in charge. That success so far for 20 years is what we're trying to establish. Beyond that, we now use that to effect certain corrections along the way. Now, if we have admitted that there's so much to learn from the June 12, if we take farewell to poverty, all the issues listed there, including some areas that border on restructuring, are all there. May not have been addressed with the word restructuring, but it was to devolve government. Devolving governance is actually the meaning of restructuring. So that is also there. Once we can revisit the policies and programs in farewell to poverty, I would say that we'll go on a journey of a return to programmed policies that will take us far. Democracy has no end. It's a journey towards that keeps being defined by events, being defined by the time, being defined by circumstances. So, but so far, the 20 years is what, it's not El Dorado, but at least it's certainly not a return to jungle boots.
I'd like to get your thoughts on this, Senator, because, I mean, at that time, even till date, I'm sure copywriters looked at the copy. They looked at the commercials, the way you ran those commercials, what it meant to people, how people responded to it, how they followed up with the debate. So participation then and now was different. We saw that's what democracy is about, people following their own candidates, whatever message they had, how those messages resonated. Because even if you played them today, it still made sense to a lot of people. And you were DG of that campaign.
Yes.
So I'm just wondering, how do you see them then and the way we're going about it now? Do you see that level of participation and interest and ownership, as it were?
Well, there is, but with a qualitative difference. And the difference is that then we were more concerned with national issues. We were more concerned with policies and programs, very little about personalities, and almost zero about religious bigotry, almost. Otherwise, in fact, late Archbishop Idahosa led the Christian campaign. And one of their complaints was not that we had a Muslim ticket. They were not worried about that. They were worried about how to get out people to vote for Chibemike Abiola. That spirit is absent today. So there has been some denigration in the national outlook of even the political actors and the political parties. In our time, you could see that a candidate that is loved in Kano, comes from Ogun State, defeated his opponent in Kano in his ward, and then local government, and even the state. And the defeated candidate accepted and congratulated the winner. So these are trends that are fairly absent today. Today, everybody who loses election largely says that there was some rigging done, and in most cases, there may be some elements of that, and whoever wins sees it as some military conquest. We have to actually come round to the ideals of that time. And we, maybe because it was being modeled at the beginning by a government that did not show any interest in the direction of the campaign. It was much later when the presidential elections began to come that we saw all the key interests out. And now NEC had to be forced to do one thing or the other. But the initial days were really promising days. We had the Politburo, we had the campaign, we had MAMSA, we had NEC undisturbed. Professor Nwosu had everything he needed. Although the law says whatever the ruling council told him to do, he will have to do that. But he kept obeying the constitution that empowered NEC to take certain decisions until it got to a point where they had to say, look, this is a military government, we don't want this, we don't want that. So I think we need to return to that national outlook. We need to go back to, that's why I'm pleased that by going back to June 12, we don't stop there. It has not ended. We need to revisit the spirit of June 12. And what is that spirit? One, the will of the people should be respected and never taken away again from them forever. And two, the content of political promises and campaigns should also be implemented dutifully. And whatever content that was in the farewell to poverty. I'm sure a lot of it will be blended with what's happening today in order to produce a program that political actors elected on the basis of those programs are held to account. These are the hopes that we're looking forward to brighten the political future. And we should not forget, we're all political actors. No one is going to come from outside to correct these things.
Well, gentlemen, well said, but we also have some political actors in Abuja, so let's bring them in as well so you could pose those questions to them. I hope I heard that right. Well, Frank Kokori, pro-democracy activist and former Secretary General of NUPENG. We also do have, I'm trying to get out now, this is just flipping, but yes, we have him in Abuja. Yakubu Umar, Senior Special Assistant to the President on National Assembly Matters, also joins us from Abuja. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us today on the program. Let me ask...
I think it's better for us to continue the program.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, let's just continue the conversation for a bit. I'm sure we'll get some other information.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yes, I was going to ask you, Senator Sani, because this really puzzles a lot of people, the change of the date. The significance, as Senator Zwingina says, that we must put in cognizance the importance of having to make June 12 as the Democracy Day. But has it in any way increased the level of awareness of the Nigerian state in terms of the approach, how well we're receiving this? Do you think, for instance, people feel a sense of comfort good enough to address concerns surrounding security? You're from the north, and Kaduna State in particular. You've had this crisis that have brewed from Kaduna to Katsina to Zamfara and all the way to Sokoto, even in Plateau State where Senator Zwingina is from. This is, Adamawa State and Plateau State. This frost of concerns, how do we begin to address them in the capsulation of defining what democracy is on the one hand, and also looking at the diversities that accompany it?
Thank you again. First of all, when a nation set a date to commemorate an event, then it is logical or rational that people need to ask for what reason is that date. Nations all over have public holidays with dates. Now, anyone who is younger than 30 years may not know what June 12 is all about. Even if he's 30, at least when it happened, he was too young to know what actually happened. So, the significance of June 12 is the fact that it was an event that happened that led to a resistance to bring an end to military dictatorship in Nigeria. And in the course of that resistance, the civil society, the general populace, the whole nation was on the front line, fighting to restore democracy. What is so unique about the anti-apartheid struggle was the very fact that that was the struggle that liberated South Africa to what it is today. And June 12 was our own equivalent of the anti-apartheid struggle. By that struggle, even those people who were not actively politically involved became involved, because it's now about freeing the country. It was clear after the annulment that the military were not prepared to leave, hand over power. Now such a struggle has to be led. Now you can see the role played by this different segment of the society. A section of the labor movement fought. The National Association of Nigerian Students were on the front line. ASU, Nigerian Medical Association, Ratau, Nigerian Union of Journalists, and it even led to the media were also persecuted as a result. I can remember Guardian, Punch, The News, Tell Magazine, and Concord were all proscribed at that time. So you can see that an event happened. Now it brought the whole nation together to fight. In the North, people voted for June 12. But when it came to the resistance against the annulment, then there was some hesitation because during the Abacha time, there was a serious campaign to undermine the spirit, the message, and that mandate using sectional and ethnic sentiments. It was at that very point that people like Colonel Umar, Balare Musa, late Yohana Madaki, and some few others, Dr. Bala Usman, came together and we formed what was called Movement for Unity and Progress. When we found out that the people in the North were not prepared to take the Nadeko message.
Did they resist June 12?
Of course, there was resistance. If you can see these names on the front line raising issues, then you know that what we try to do is to make sure that it was not being seen to be a Southwestern affair. But certainly it was more intense here. But because we are fighting a battle, you have a northerner who is a head of state, who has the resources and the propaganda to tell people not to embark on civil disobedience and protest campaign as it was done in Southwest here. But we were able to put the North on the map at that very time. So when we talk of June 12 now, we are not simply talking about Abiola or an annulment of election. We're also talking about the very moment the first gunshot for a revolutionary resistance was fired against the military. And without June 12, there could not have been May 29. And that is why I said, if the present government is serious about what it has done, and actually it's been done, we at the Senate, we approved it, it's not about an Abuja event for special assistants, ministers, and senators, and members of the ruling party. It is about the struggle and sacrifice of many people, some of whom now are even on the opposition. Who were those that worked for June 12? Many of them are still alive. Who were those that fought for June 12? Many of them are still alive. So I believe that in the interest of making sure that that date is not polluted, or the intention of that, the recognition of June 12 is not politicized, it is crucial that the very forces and elements, those pillars of freedom that struggle, should be very much recognized as those that deliver democracy to Nigeria.
We'll pick up from that and hopefully get more perspective on that particular matter and then move forward when we come back in a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back to Democracy Day, and in addition to Frank Kokori and El Yakubu Umar, who are in Abuja, we also do have Mr. Femi Falana, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, all of them joining us from our studios in Abuja. Well, let me start with you, Mr. Umar, concerning this day, Democracy Day. So if you could shed some light in terms of the thinking, because there are those who wonder, are we going to maintain both days, or will we eventually, is it thinking that eventually Democracy Day, inauguration, and all of those events will take place on the 12th of June? Mr. Mark, can you hear me?
Changes are done in terms of amending, perhaps even the Constitution to reflect, swearing in of the new government on Democracy Day, because as it is now, it's 29th May. That is the day that has been recognized for handing over and swearing of a new government. But perhaps going down the line, I'm sure in this administration, we need to look at it with a view to harmonizing these 2 days and essentially recognizing Democracy Day as the actual day for, the inception of a new government.
So, Kokori, let me ask you, I mean, what's your impression about that? Do you think we should maintain the way it is, or if we have all of that today and then moving forward concerning democracy and deepening democracy, will that suffice for you?
Come up again.
What's your impression? Are you also of the school of thought that we might as well just move Inauguration Day to today, Democracy Day, and then moving forward from this day?
Oh, yes, oh, yes, oh, yes. Actually, it was anomalous when they, from the first time in 1999, actually slated that May 29th for Democracy Day. To us in the civil society family, we never really supported that date. That date was imposed on Nigerians. And we felt that June 12th was the actual date that Nigerians should commemorate as the day we really got democracy. And to me personally, I felt that that was one of the greatest landmark in the history of this country. Not even Oktoberfest. Because I've always said that Oktoberfest, there was no bloodshed, there was not much struggles of Nigerians. Because I know the British people actually were in a hurry to leave Nigeria at that time. They were not much concerned about Nigeria because of the bad weather, mosquitoes and everything. So they never liked staying in Nigeria. It was different from places like Kenya, where they enjoy the weather and they want to be indigenous people of Kenya and the South African states. So then it was the question of, say, when do you want to have your independence? And the Western people, led by Chief Obafemi Awolowo, was insisting he wants it now, about 1957. And Azikiwe was saying, well, just give me some little time. 1 year, 2 years will be okay for us. And I know in the North, Ahmadu Bello was saying, no, we're not prepared yet. Just give us more time so that our people should be better qualified, like the people from the western part of this country, or the southern part of the country. And that was how they got it. Lancaster conferences with people drinking tea and chatting. That is how we got our independence. I was young. I was reading newspapers, and I was following them. They were my heroes. Azikiwe was my hero, followed by Awolowo, Ahmadu Bello, Tafawa Balewa, Adelabu. We have all these people who were our heroes at that time, who were young men. Tony and Nauru, they were very young. And so we got it like that, and there were parades, and everybody was happy. And we got our independence. But down the line, independence, that's about how many years now? From 1960 to this time. Should be running to 50-something years. And we were retrogressing instead of progressing. And we were thinking that at this stage, Nigeria should be at the same level with countries like India, Brazil, and Malaysia. Because those are the classic examples that were at the same level with Nigeria at that time. But today, they're far away from us. Then June 12th, we struggled. Civil society struggled. Everybody struggled. But I, Frank Kokori, will dwell more, being the mouthpiece of the oil unions at that time, on the resistance, actually, the physical resistance, and the civil society resistance, yes. But it was on that where people now said, look, we're ready to die for this. The military, you must go back. If not, we will die for it, because there were so many people, and people you don't even expect, that will fight for that struggle. And those you expect to stick their head never did. I wonder what a small journalist had at that time, that he said he would stick his life for the struggle for democracy. Whereas the big ones, the big politicians, even me, I was a chieftain of the SDP at the age of 40s. I was in my late 40s. But there are younger men in civil society who were sticking their life. I'm not talking of the older ones like Chief Gani Fahimi, people like Bekor and Sonkuti, and even my junior comrade here, Femi Falana. He was young, far, far younger than us at that time. So we did it for just, it was a struggle that Nigerians said, yes, this is a struggle. And to me, June 12th was when we really had our independence. And we had our freedom from military dictatorship. And so that is why I laughed when the first man who benefited from this struggle, these long years of struggle, that is the great General Olusegun Obasanjo. We thought he would hit the ground running. And unfortunately, he could not hit the ground running. And we expected him to do a lot of revolutionary changes in the landscape of our country. The Constitution, people talk of restructuring today. Those were at his fingertips. He should have done it. And everybody should have supported him at that time. So at this time, when I now see people talking of restructuring, we had the time to do restructuring, but it was never done. And this is one of the problems we're having in Nigeria today.